joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about decreasing candidate attrition within Oracle Recruiting Cloud. I'm going to go through some items that are both within Oracle Recruiting Cloud, Oracle Boost or Recruiting Booster, and Journeys. So each of these items are things that your organization can do to leverage the tools within those areas to increase candidate communication, to keep candidates warm and engaged throughout the onboarding and hiring processes. We will talk through the funnel, starting at the top of the candidate attraction funnel, really about that sourcing and attraction. Then we'll go into some hiring events details, things you can do to optimize there. Onward to our candidate applications, how those candidates can apply, how to ease that application process and minimize it for their experience, and then on into the interview and selections, things we can do in the interview and selection area of the candidate process that will allow you to keep them engaged even while they're waiting for information from the hiring manager or the recruiter. And then from there, we'll just talk through some tips and ideas for continuing that experience for the candidate through onboarding, encouraging their engagement and not losing them within the black holes that can happen after they've signed an offer letter, but they haven't quite started yet, and then beyond once they're on campus with you. Going to have some time at the end for some questions, and definitely would love to hear your thoughts and feedback once we get to the end. If you do have something in the middle, feel free to chime in, but we're going to try and hold all of the questions for the end just so we have some time to discuss. Within the sourcing and attraction, we're going to be using Oracle Recruiting Cloud and Oracle Recruiting Booster. Those two tools work together in this space to give you the ability to truly customize the look and feel, as well as the communication and the experience that your candidate is having on or throughout your process of getting their attention, really sourcing them, communicating with them. The goal here is to really grab their attention right away by using your website to build out some of the more tailored materials here, giving your candidates the ability to learn about your organization and to feel up front what your organization is about, what that culture feels like, truly giving them an experience where they have distinct call to actions. It is branded with your brand within Oracle. You have the ability to do some customization here on the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript side. There's also a new category tile and page generator, which is a wonderful feature for you to generate some additional pages with very low need for technical skill. And then you can customize those with a little bit more technical skills and with a UX designer or a web designer on your team. Some tips here on the side is just that we want to use the creative process and have that creative process come from the recruiting team. A lot of times we want to hand over those tools, those website builds, that marketing material to the marketing team, but truly your recruiting team is going to know what a candidate asks most frequently, what a candidate is most worried about at the beginning phase of their application process, and what they want to hear about and what they want to see. So this process should truly be ran by your recruiting team, and then you should truly engage a UX designer or a marketing person, both, if I'm being honest. Having a web designer and a marketing person on board with this, as well as your recruiting team, is going to set you up for the best success here to truly drive those messages and engagement to your candidates. Going to down here on the bottom, you can see that you have the ability to add some hover effects, be pretty creative with this using some custom, really basic JavaScript, really basic CSS here as well that you can use to customize the look and feel. You'll also notice here at the top that we've done a custom banner and custom menu. So all of these options allow you to link back to your own site, your corporate site, get them in there, have your corporate site and your current site be identical in the look and feel. Want to call out that it's really important that you think through this from an SEO perspective, have keywords, search terms in there that people would be looking for if they're looking to be employed by your organization, and that you turn on that vanity URL so it looks like you're at your business URL. So it's not just the Oracle long URL that it shows. Additionally, just making very clear, concise copy. You'll see on this page that I've demoed out here, there's really only some high level content. The rest of it relies on interactive elements and them engaging with the page. So keeping it high level, keeping it simple, and on the home page, giving them a clear action. And then when they click into something, it gives them a lot more detail and information. Moving on from the website, your candidates are going to take one of two actions. They're going to apply for a role or a pipeline, depending on the recs that you have posted, or they're going to sign up for your talent community. It's very important to encourage your candidates to apply for that talented community, because that is your way to keep them engaged long term, even if they don't apply to the actual rec. So add that button on your website, have some social media posts that are going out to join that talent community. This is truly how you're going to engage them and keep them warm and get their interest over time. You're able to, with these campaign tools within ORC, which are underneath the My Client groups, navigate to hiring, and then they're on the left-hand menu. You do need a recruiter role to access that, and there's a couple permissions that you'll need to add for the recruiters for campaigns specifically. But you're able to set up templates that recruiters can use over and over again. There's a new media library where you can upload images. Those images are then able to be selected for the campaigns. In the past, images had to be linked from a website where they were hosted. Now they can be directly uploaded. There's also now a WYSIWYG text editor. And what that just means is what you see is what you get. So when you're looking at this text box on the right, the dark gray box, that is just showing you can see exactly what you're typing in there. You can see exactly what it looks like. And once you're all set on that, you can send some test emails to yourself, check those out in your browsers, make sure that they are looking the same when you email them to your own email, personal as well as corporate, because they're handled differently by different browsers. So if you're sending this email campaign to your candidates, they could go to their Outlook, it could go to their Gmail, it could go to Yahoo, any number of places. So just test what this looks like in a couple test email accounts to see that the formatting is staying or how it's behaving, so you can alter if needed. The emails can be scheduled. Really schedule those out. You're going to keep them warm by taking those candidates that have joined the talent community on your website and scheduling these emails out to go to them. And you can do this in one of two ways. You can do a one-time campaign where you go through and you search for certain candidates in your system that have agreed to receive marketing materials. And you can give them a series of emails just once that maybe talk about an event you're having, ties in really well with your hiring events tools that are booster related. And then you also have the ability to do ongoing campaigns. And an ongoing campaign goes to every single candidate that comes through. It initiates on the day they add themselves to the talent community and is over a series of time. A note here on this one is just to say that these banner images, anytime you add an image, the best way to have that image is to have it at 600 pixels wide. So down here in the bottom, we talk about that. That 600 pixels wide is going to allow it to stretch across the whole width of the column that it's in and kind of prevent some functionality within our specifically within Outlook, which stretches that image or changes the justification with its own tool. If you have it stretched across the entire browser and the same width as the browser or as the email, it will be positioned correctly. So just add white space around it and make sure all your images are about 600 pixels wide. Now, if you're filling just one column, or maybe you're breaking this up and having multiple columns across, you would just divide that by the number of columns that you're having and have it fit within that. Speaking of the ongoing campaigns, this is a new tool that came out, I believe, the first release of this year. It might have been the end of last year. This is allowing you to do an ongoing drip campaign. Basically, a candidate will join your talent community. This kind of shows an example flow. They join the talent community through the talent community button or through accepting the terms of marketing emails on the application form when they apply for a role. Then it automatically will send out the first email. That is a welcome email in this case. It is sent at the time of that registration and to everyone who registered. And then at the second email that is going to go out a week after that. For this instance, you can do this a little differently if you wanted to. It would be set for 1 week after community registration. You would then send it to just those who didn't open the previous email, kind of an email reminder to take an action. And then the third step would be a series of informational emails. Those emails can go, you can have 1, 2, 3, as many as you'd like in that second or in that third email. You can go through to fourth, fifth, sixth, as many as you like there. I'm not sure that there is a limit, but I'm sure we could find one if we kept trying. Here with the third one I have set, it is going to go out 2 weeks after initial registration to the talent community. So you can see they're getting one the first day at 1 week and then 2 weeks. If I added more, it would be third week, fourth week, etc. This is based on when the person registers. The timing is specific to that candidate. It is not a timing of the time you set it up. It is simply going to go off the candidate's timing. And that would go to all talent members of the talent community that you have configured for the audience of it. You can set that audience to have separate drip campaigns, ongoing campaigns per job family or job function based on how your talent community is set up and how you filter it on the audience tab. So keep it in mind that if you want to target perhaps nurses differently that you want to target maybe janitors, you would have 2 different job family drip campaigns that you would set up for ongoing. Some tips for this. This is really wanting to talk about not wanting to contact your candidates and keeping them warm more than once weekly. You're not wanting to inundate them with information or overwhelm their inbox. You want to make sure that the candidate emails that are coming from your recruiters are still getting to them and they're not getting flooded and not wanting to communicate and they're overwhelmed with emails. Make sure that you are limiting how often you're sending emails. You can use multiple campaigns, just like I said, to target the different audiences. Over here on the right, you can see an example of what I was talking about 3 different emails. This top one is a welcome email. It's to the whole audience. And then the reminder email you're seeing is following up communication 7 days after the first one, and it's going to the audience of unopened. And the third one here is following up 14 days after initiation, and that's to the entire audience, again, to communicate anything you want to communicate. It's really helpful to use these in a series to talk about your benefits, your PTO, mission, vision, values, maybe a message from your CEO or hiring staff, anybody like that that information is really helpful to stagger out in these informational emails, this drip campaign. If this was my organization, I would definitely have information email about the benefits, and then the next one would be about PTO, kind of stagger those topics to continue engaging them and giving them new information that they didn't previously get. Really keeping your candidate engaged. The whole point here is to continue to encourage them to stay in contact, to continue them to want to work with you and learn more about your operation. So if you can drip out that information slowly, you're going to keep them a little bit more engaged, but we don't want to go too slowly. So about once a week to every other week is a pretty good cadence here. When you're crafting these email messages, it's really good to include your marketing team and your graphic design team to help you create those images to put in there, the layout of the email. Like I said, you can go multiple columns across, or you can have just blocks down. There's lots of options for how that layout will work. And it's really helpful to involve them, but again, this really should truly be driven by your recruiting team because they are aware of what a candidate wants to see and what the candidate asks often. And you can use this in a way that will allow your recruiters to maybe decrease the amount of time they're spending answering the same questions over and over again. So if you're getting frequently asked questions, this is a great way to kind of get ahead of that and free up some of your recruiter time while still keeping the candidates engaged. Now, while you're doing this, you still have the option within the candidate pool, the talent community candidate pool, the global one that's created from them coming in from the talent community, to track their progress, to really mark that they've been communicated with, what emails they've got, really move their status along. Maybe they've replied to one of those emails. If you have email two-way set up, you can communicate that within the system, really track that within a candidate pool so you can keep track of who you talk to, and then your recruiters can follow up with them and have additional conversations. You're able to kind of see who's done what there. There's also metrics associated with these emails. You can see them on the dashboard for the email itself, for the campaign itself. You can also pull some reports out of OTBI that really will communicate what's happening with your campaign and where it's going. If people are interacting, if you're losing people, it's really important to try and target what's working and what's not and adjust as you go. The next, we're going to talk about hiring events. Now, I drop hiring events in here after the campaigns because I want you to think about this with the context of being able to target your candidates you already have with hiring events. So getting those candidates into the office, getting them in front of actual hiring managers and recruiters, and getting them out of the online world where they're looking at information on their own. These hiring events allow you kind of to transition those candidates and push them into an event where they can actually speak to you. It's a little bit more of an engagement method, and we'll pull in those candidates. Some cool things you can do here is when you create your hiring event, a couple things I want you to think about on the page layout and overall just in creating these events. In order to create some engagement, it's really valuable to have information and appealing graphics, have some call outs here and some CTAs, call to actions that tell them what you want them to do as a candidate, give them a reason they want to come and visit you with this candidate focused information on the screen. Really make sure that you are telling them the reason that they would want to come to a physical event or maybe a virtual event, depending on how you would have it set up. Also important here is to have keywords for the type of jobs that you're hiring for at the event in the event title. That is important because Google will also scrape your website. And if someone's searching for, support service jobs at your organization and you have support service hiring event here, you will start to rank a little bit higher and you'll be able to see that a little bit more if you're using those keywords. Additionally, those keywords are really helpful on the search results on your own website. So when a candidate comes to your website and they type in support services, perhaps, they will show this hiring event in their search results, which we want them to see. So here we've also added a branded event banner. In this case, you do have to provide a link. However, you can create your banner and upload it to the recruitment media library and then copy the URL of that image to be used on this creation. That is a great way to make sure that you have those visuals and you're not using just a standard stock image for one event, that you are changing them out, that they're contextualized for the actual event, and people are getting a look and feel for what they're doing, and includes your brand, maybe your logos on the tile, things like that. Making sure that you have filled out every bit of detail that you can and giving that all to them. Again, with wanting to engage your marketing team with this, maybe have your graphic design team create these banners. They're just a typical email banner. Your marketing team or your design team should know what those specs are. Really just a 19 by 6 ratio there. And then with the utilizing of that media library, your team will be able to go ahead and upload some that can be used over and over again by your recruiters to create these events based on the context of the event. Also, you have the ability, you can insert emojis, you can insert text formatting, all of that can be done right there on the event. Go ahead and give it some spark, give it some energy, and let them see what they need to see, call out what they need to see. And then again, tying this back into your candidate pools and making sure that you are targeting specific people based on their background, their interests, and tracking what's happening in your candidate pools and your one-time campaigns. Now, Oracle just came out with 24B, and in 24B, we can actually unpost our hiring events. So on our hiring event, when you set it up, make sure that when you're posting it, you actually set an expiration date, which is a brand new feature. Let that happen so that you're not keeping your hiring events on the website past when they are. So I would typically unpost an event the day of the event, unless we're doing in-person registration, then it would be after the event. Otherwise, if someone has to be registered before, I would cancel or unpost on the day of the event just before it, maybe an hour before, so you can keep track of everybody that's in there and do whatever you need from a recruiting standpoint to check them in. Now, once you have your event audience, people have registered, you'll see here up on the top, I registered myself for this hiring event. You're able to kind of send messages. You're able to do a few things that you could do from a requisition as well. Send them to a candidate pool, add and record an interaction with that candidate, or add them to a requisition, meaning invite them to apply or apply for them, depending on how your organization handles that add to requisition tool. What's nice about this is prior to the event, you can send post-event emails encouraging them directly to their name and from the hiring event using event tokens that are available in this message structure here, allowing you to really customize and remind them and get them excited about the event that they're going to come to. So very valuable here to customize that and to reach out to them ahead of the event. That will increase the number of people that are coming to your event. It will also allow you to continue that communication with them. So if perhaps they're not able to make it after all, they've registered, but after all, they're not actually able to attend, it's really helpful to have this emails that are going out to them because they can reply if you have two-way messages, or you could have your email address listed in the email that goes out to them, and they can reach out and maybe schedule a time to actually talk to you or say, hey, I'm sorry, can we talk another time? And you're able to do those things if you've had an open line of communication with them. So it's really valuable to open that line of communication in this way. You can also do this by adding them all to a candidate pool and using a campaign email. Not quite the same functionality, but it does have the HTML structured email with the graphics and things that you can use. That's nice if you want to send a message to everybody in the event. Go ahead and send campaigns and use them, add them to a candidate pool and send them campaigns directly that way as well. Also great to add them commit the candidate pool after they attend the event and send them thank you emails through a campaign that encourages them to apply for specific jobs. It's another way I've used this tool in the past. When you invite somebody to apply, just make sure that you know your internal requirements. Some companies do not allow you to add them to a requisition as in create the application for them. So just be aware that sometimes you can invite them to the requisition to apply, or you could actually add them and create the application yourself. All right. And I do see a question in the chat from Jill. We'll jump back over to the questions at the end, if that's okay. Use campaigns here. We're going to understand how we're engaging our candidates. So what we just talked about with the hiring event registration, that application flow when they're applying to go to the registration or the hiring event, just really simplifying that, giving them bare information right on that page that they need to know that encourages them to go, and then just getting the bare minimum information from them in that application flow. The goal here is not to get them through your compliance. It's not to engage them in actual rec, it's to get their attention and get them to the event so you can do all those other things. So the more simplified your hiring event registration is, the better. A lot of times I see hiring event registrations that have the full application flow that you would have for a regular requisition. It's a little overkill in this situation because they're still going to have to go and apply for the rec that they actually want to work on after the event or at the event, depending on how your flow and encouragement goes. So it's really helpful if you decrease that barrier and they can get in there really quick. Maybe they can just upload their resume or a couple things, and then they can put their name, email address, phone number, and agree to terms. Very simple right there on the hiring event registration. You do have the opportunity to put some questions in there to help you filter the audience, and you also have the ability to set up the manual registration. And what that means is your candidate can register for the event, but it's not confirmed until your hiring team has reviewed them and sent a confirmation. So it'll say this person is confirmed and can attend. So then it'll say an email to the candidate that says you've been confirmed to attend. Here's your information for the event. There's two ways to go. It'll either auto approve if you don't have that on, or your recruiters will need to manually approve people based on their requirements. So that's within the event confirmation email that goes out. There's two different ones. That's managed in your recruitment content library and will allow you to really give additional information. So helpful note here is that your event confirmation can be customized for your organization, just like everything else in the recruitment content library. It also can have the HTML header and footer that you can use for your branding and your unsubscribe, things like that, your header with your logo. So just confirming that when you're sending out those event confirmations, they have exciting, engaging language in them that is a little bit more generic because it will be used for every single event, the specific one, but also just making sure that you are communicating valuable information and trying to get them excited for whatever event they've applied to. Then what I would do at this point is go to a pre-event reminder. I would use a campaign email. I'd add everybody into a candidate pool that has registered for the event. I would do a select all, add to actions, and then add to candidate pool, create that candidate pool for the specific event, send out a pre-event reminder with details. Maybe make sure you bring your registration or your resume. Make sure you're bringing your certificates if you're in something that requires a degree or a certificate. Make sure that you know where to park, things like that. We add all of that to the pre-event reminder. I like to add dress code because a lot of times I worked in Vegas for a really long time, so dress codes were a little weird. Always like to add that information. And then thank you emails would be the next email that I would send out. So that would be right after the event. I would send that out to people who were there, and then maybe even an event, a separate category, or email it to people who didn't attend and ask them if they want to follow up later. That's an opportunity there at number 4 to kind of split that. And then I would send an email about a week after the event and inviting them to apply to additional roles. So maybe they didn't like the roles that you had at the time, just an invite to apply for more roles, apply for maybe keep in touch, anything that you want to do there to try and keep them engaged, because the whole goal here is to not lose the candidates you've already gotten. If they're already in your system, you want to keep them engaged if they're the right candidate. All right, so candidate applications. We did talk a little bit about this in the event flow, but just creating some options here for your candidate to really be able to understand what's available to them and how they can utilize or how you can utilize the system to communicate that to them without having to have your recruiters really filter through all these resumes and information. You can build in some tools. Some of these are AI focused tools, and some of these are in partner integrations, allows your candidate to go in and kind of self-service. They can go in, upload their resume, say, what do I fit? And it'll display 5 jobs that are similar to what their skill set and what they may qualify for. It's a really good opportunity to enable that. It does require the Chili partner integration, which can be turned on right now with 24B just in the system. You no longer need an SR. So you can turn that Chili partner integration on if you have Recruiting Booster, and then just add those blocks to your website. So you're adding the recommended jobs block to the splash page, which is this little section at the very top of the screen where it says upload resume in the little bar. You can also add the job fit tiles to the details page, so a job details page. That will tell them if they're a fit for the job. So once they click on a specific job, if they've already uploaded their resume, maybe they're logged in, they've been an applicant before, this block will now appear on their job search page or their job details page and allow them to understand if they're a good fit for the role. It does require you to do some back end work to set up your skills, to do those, turn on those AI profile options. There's a couple down here that I do suggest turning on and playing with. And it's best to turn on your ODA, your Oracle Digital Assistant, that little guy at the corner. You can customize what he looks like with your CSS on your website, which is kind of fun. You can change the colors on him and the logo on him, things like that. And then with that, you'll allow people to kind of chat with the bot and put in their resume right into the chat window, and the chat will encourage them to answer questions and continue them on, and then give them job suggestions, which is another really fast, easy way for your candidate to get information. Side note, you can also turn your options on in ODA for custom questions. So if you want to have some custom question responses in there about benefits and a list of your benefits, those are options also within ODA that are really helpful to the candidates and will keep them engaged without your recruiters having to do all that extra work. Once it's set up, it's really just keeps going until you need to change some of the data. With that, Easy Apply is also enabled with that rChili integration and with Booster. A few other things that are really helpful to enable are your LinkedIn and Indeed profile imports. Those profile imports, the rChili resume, and then LinkedIn and Indeed really allow your candidate to not have to manually do as much. They're able to kind of just check things rather than fully have to type everything in if they want you to have information. So adding that import profile block to your job application page here, I show on the bottom picture under Easy Apply, that's going to allow you to give them the opportunity to upload the resume and have it parsed or do the LinkedIn and Indeed. And then again, talking about wanting to keep that ODA active, using that ODA for candidate experience as well, not just HCM. There's a couple different skills you could train it on. And then turning on the AI work summary and the Easy Apply. Now, the Easy Apply is a application flow that can be turned on that works with the ODA, and it shortens your application flow and creates this ability to have the AI work summary turned on. So your candidates can go into the ODA, be chatting with the chatbot, say they want to apply, they will give some information to the chatbot, upload their resume, and then the AI will deliver a summary of their work history or their work information and provide that and add it to their application. I usually suggest that Easy Apply is turned on specifically for requisitions that are pipeline because it's a little bit shorter. Maybe you have compliance on your larger requisitions and need the full flow for specific ones. But pipelines are a perfect example of where you would use this. High frequency, high hires, fast hires, things like that, that you don't need to get super detailed on their application, but you just need to get to them. That is a very good place to use the application flow of Easy Apply. Now your candidate has applied, you're reviewing their resume, you're going through as the recruiter or the hiring manager and seeing what's going on, checking them out. There's a couple ways to continue communication with that candidate. It's really common that right here, your candidates, maybe they get disposition, they never get an email, they never get information, or they get called 4 weeks later for an interview for a job they applied to. It's very, very common in our industry that happens. It's really helpful here to create some automated communication flows for that candidate so that they are not feeling like they're ignored, but again, your recruiter doesn't have to actually engage. So allowing your system to have those specific candidate statuses that are shown to the candidate. So when your candidate logs in, is looking at their My Profile, this place right here where it says candidate status, that information is displaying next to their name and their application on their profile on the website. So they're able to check that. It can be really helpful if you have these customized. Right now, the default is really under consideration all the way down and then not retained or withdrawn. If you want to say interview to be scheduled and you want your candidate to know that they're ready to schedule their interview, you could change that status and let the candidate know when they log into their profile that they're, an interview is going to be scheduled. Also, allowing your candidates to self-schedule their interviews, turning on that integration of interviews is really helpful. Even if you don't have the booster, there's still a lot of options for you to use for interviews, and also a lot of ability to customize the messaging that goes out with that and ease that experience for your recruiters and candidates in general. So turning on that send interview invite automatic when they reach the interview to be scheduled, having those time slots already pre-prepared and set up before someone's moved to that phase and state is going to allow you to automate that messaging and that interview selection and really take the work out of the back and forth emails to figure out when they can interview. Additionally, just making sure that when you're moving someone from offer or maybe to a different section, you can streamline your CSP with auto moves so you can keep track of where they are. If someone's selected for offer, your recruiters don't need to go back in and say that they're moved to offer. They can just select for offer, and then it'll auto move them into move to offer and give them the ability to create that offer. So that kind of streamlines it and gives you the opportunity for your recruiters to move a little faster on the other things they need to worry about and take some of that work on steps off their hands. Additionally, there is the ability to not allow people to move out of a phase and state until they've completed something. So in this case, I have this one set up where it's required to interview feedback from all the people that feedback has been requested, so the entire hiring team, before they're able to move out of the feedback requested area. Once they've completed that, they can move into feedback completed or selected for offer or any of the others. Also important, not shown on the screen, is to make sure that when you're rejecting someone, you do have a disposition message set up, sending them a notification they've been dispositioned, they're not being considered any longer. You can delay that. That does not have to go out at the same time as the moment you move them to rejected by employer. You can delay it by 1 or 2 days. You can delay it by a week, whatever you'd like to do, but it is important to communicate that to them. And that takes it off your recruiter's plate to do that. It will just send out that auto message, and that message can have information in it for future events, future activities, future requisitions, encouraging them to continue applying, but this isn't the particular role for them. That is an option here. Always include in your disposition emails next steps so that you can keep that person in your pipeline, because perhaps they're going to have a degree next year and then you would consider them then. You don't want to completely write somebody off unless they're truly like, you can't work with them. Just making sure that you're communicating at every step. In your event flow or in your requisition flow, it can be really hard on a candidate when they're not hearing any news. It's really not good news when you don't have any news. And a lot of times we say, you know, good news or no news is good news. In this case, no news is bad news. You really want to keep your candidate informed and customize those messages. So I've listed here on the right several emails that I tend to customize that allow you to add branding, add information, add details about your organization, or even about the next steps. Maybe when you have them interview scheduled, you also share with them some links to go get benefit information, or maybe some stuff to go read a CEO statement. So just these notifications on the right are really helpful points in contact with the candidate that you can add details to and really think outside of the initial box to keep them engaged. The more communication you have with that candidate, not through your marketing, you know, your marketing emails are a little bit separate. You want to stagger those, but one-to-one communication, where like these automated ones where it looks like it's coming directly from a recruiter, it's really valuable to continue that communication and keep that line open. So use your automated messages, customize them for your business, make sure they're not, you know, defaulted to just some grids and text, that they truly have information about your organization and make them feel custom for the candidate. It's another way, a couple other ways that I wanted to call out that you can continue preventing that drop off. These are some major points in the application and hiring area that candidates tend to drop off. So you're going to see in the application flow, you know, if your applicant has been sitting there for maybe a week and they haven't been reached out to, they're going to forget about the application, or they're going to consider it closed and that they're not going to hear from somebody. So continue to send messages, send a weekly email update to every candidate on the requisition, or sign them up for the talent community, or move them into a candidate pool and send them campaign. Just making sure you're communicating with them, even if you don't have an update. Maybe you could just send them more details or something else to look at. Same with the dispositioning. We're really seeing a lot of candidates not get disposition, never hearing back from a application that they have. So it's really helpful to go ahead and communicate with them that, yeah, you've been declined for this role. We've declined you, but we'd like you to apply for other roles, or here's some things that you can do in the meantime until a future role comes out, or check back when. You can do those things here with the disposition and having that automated in the CSP, but you can also do that by going into the send the candidate a message. So after you've dispositioned them, send them a message and encourage them to continue applying. A couple different ways you can do that. Try not to leave your candidates hanging and use the system to your advantage to continue that communication and not make them feel like they've been forgotten about and not know what their status is. During the interview and selection phase, really just focusing on what we talked about on the previous slide, understanding that the use of those interview notifications, those custom fields on the self-scheduling of the interview, and really those little details you can fill in here and there where you can use graphics and imagery are really helpful. So kind of think outside the box still on those notifications. And then in pre-hire, it's really common for someone to get a job offer and then not hear anything until their first day, or they complete their paperwork and then they hear nothing until the first day. So adding information to your pre-hire onboarding journey, really optimizing that journey to include details, maybe having a set series of emails tied to that journey that go out when it's assigned, or maybe when a task is assigned on a task level, if it's delayed, just making sure you're communicating with them and they feel like they haven't fallen into a hole where no one's talking to them and they don't know what they're doing. Great place for you to add details about where they're going to park the first day, or maybe how to get lunch, or any of those details that they're going to want on their first day. Add that to the email or add that to your pre-hire onboarding journey. Get them in the system and understanding what you look like from a culture before they start on day one, not just giving them the opportunity to fill out their paperwork, but really making that a true experience of what they're going to walk into. The concern here, the reason for this here is that when someone comes into your organization, they already have an impression of who you are based on what's happened up to that point. So you want to keep their onboarding or their pre-onboarding an experience that makes them believe your organization is going to be the right fit for them. You don't want to stop all communication after you've done all this communication previously and not continue that until day one, because they are going to form an opinion before they even start, and you want that opinion to be good. You want them to come in on a happy foot and feel like they're stepping into the right position. So that will help with your pre-hire. And if you're having candidates fall off prior to the first day, or maybe they're not showing up on the first day, this is a way that you can communicate with them and try and keep them engaged and keep them warm and happy to be coming and not fall off. And then again, through the onboarding. So onboarding here, it's really journeys that we talk about with onboarding. I'm sure you've heard that many times and you're all migrating or already in journeys. But there's abilities here within journeys. These are the 3 journeys that I typically see set up or I set up. And in this case, it's really start your journey, your first day. I try to give them a informational header that says start here. This is the first thing you need to do. And I do that really the day after the move to hire is where I trigger that typically. You'll see on this block on the bottom, the action name move to hire. I have it on checklist allocated, but you can also delay that by 1 day. And so that's what I would do in a real life scenario. I was delay that 1 day and have those go to them, because that gives time for your security to populate their username and profile and everything they'll need to actually complete that journey. So if we delay it, it goes up overnight instead of immediately. In that document, I do give them a pre-hire paperwork, all that paperwork they need to fill out pre-day one. But I also like to make sure that candidates are getting a candidate experience survey. You can use a questionnaire in the system. That questionnaire will be able to be filled out. And you're also going to communicate to them the day one information, what they're going to do on their first day, what they need to know, where they're going to park, again, things like that we talked about. That's where you're going to target them with all that information we talked about on the previous slide. And then I do a day one. Sometimes if they have a full day orientation on day one and they're not actually going to be at their desks or their workplace, then I'll do it a delayed a day. But your hire day is really important to give them the first documents they need on their first day, making sure they're getting everything they need to know about there. Maybe how to make a service request for IT, or making sure that they have any documents they may frequently use. Maybe if they're a hiring manager or they're going into a recruiting position, maybe you give them a task in their day one that just has a bunch of documents that they'll use frequently to save to their desktop. Things like that are really helpful here, or a link to your SharePoint that they can use. Go ahead and put that in your day one, and then just use an eligibility profile for it to go to the correct group of people. Really helpful way to get communication out and for them to have one place they can go back to refer to. And then I do want to really 5 days after hire, and it usually lasts through 30 days. Sometimes I'll do a 30-day and then through 90-day for benefits enrollment, because benefits don't always happen on the first week, but if they do, you don't need to do that 30-day one. This is just your training stuff in your goal setting. And then I like to do an onboarding survey. So there's two different surveys you'll notice here, the candidate experience survey and the onboarding survey. So I want to know what worked in our candidate experience, what worked in your application, what were you happy with, what was cumbersome, what was maybe a fail, or what was a win for you in that experience, and how do we compare to other people. And then I want to know how your onboarding went. I want to know if you liked the onboarding experience, or if you need to go back and maybe we need to fill in some gaps for you if there's anything missing. And then that helps you really guide your next steps. And the next candidate that comes through the process, maybe you're able to add some steps and some information, and you can kind of close those gaps that you're facing. Lastly, you can really go through here in those journey notifications and update those custom messages. So there's defaulted messages in the system for all of your journeys. They're all done within Alerts Composer. There's journey level and task level. Every single one of those can be customized on a journey level or a task level within the actual journey. So if it's your first week journey, you can have a specific email for a first work journey that you would see over here on the right. You know, Donald Duck got this first day one where it gives them his username that he wasn't going to have. So somebody had to provide it, and the system can provide it here. And then that is a different notification on the next journey, the week 2, perhaps. And he doesn't need all that information, but maybe it says, we're so glad you're here. Keep going. You've got more information to complete or more things to complete. Use those templates to your advantage. Create custom ones for every journey so that you have the ability to tell them what they're getting into. You kind of give them a little bit more detail. It's not just another checklist to do, and they have some engagement there. The more the better as far as information. And so that's what I have for you today. I am also speaking a little bit later next week on the websites more robustly. So if you wanted more information in that section, feel free to join me. And then we'll have a booth at Ascend, and I'm happy to demo any of this as well. Now we will jump over to Q&A.
So we only had one question from Jill. She was just asking about the recording. So we do want to clarify that recording will be available on the conference app. We do not allow for the downloading of conference content. It is exclusive to the conference, so it will be available through the app to conference attendees.
Great.
Does anybody else have any other questions? We have a few minutes. Please type them in the chat.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it would be wonderful if you could fill out the session form survey while you're at it as well before you leave.
Yes, please fill out those surveys on the conference app. I guess we'll wrap this up. We have a few more sessions today, as well as tomorrow and Friday, so make sure you check those out. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you at the conference.
Thank you, everyone.